Date everything. This game proves we're doomed. I knew civilization was teetering, but I didn't realise just how far we'd slid until I discovered that one of the most critically acclaimed games of the year is not only a dating simulator, but one where you can fall in love with your smoke alarm. Still, if that's not romantic enough for you, how about a toaster, your front door, or even your box of Christmas decorations? The game I am talking about is called Date Everything, and somehow it's not just bizarre, it's brilliant, albeit in a really mentally ill sort of way. Amusingly, despite sounding like something that should have been laughed off Kickstarter, by the second sentence of this pitch, this surreal little game has somehow charmed players, won over critics, and made a frankly indecent amount of money from what on paper sounded like the most unhinged idea imaginable. With over 90% positive reviews on Steam, a top percentile ranking on OpenCritic, and sales numbers that would make other indie developers weep, Date Everything has become one of 2025's most unexpected and confusingly wholesome success stories. So here's the question: how did a game about literally romancing furniture resonate with more audiences than most of the mega-budget blockbusters that we're usually told to get excited about? I am Lady Decade. If you like spicy gaming content, then hit subscribe, because today we're going to be taking a look at Date Everything and why this game is becoming a success. What exactly is this game that has critics swooning and the Steam algorithm doing backflips? Date Everything, as previously disclosed, is a dating simulator, but not like any dating simulator you've ever played before. There are no anime schoolgirls, no coffee shop hipsters, no bad boy werewolves with a dark past. Instead, you play as a recently unemployed shut-in who's just lost their customer service job to AI. One day, you receive a mysterious package in the post containing a pair of magical glasses called the Date Viators. These glasses allow you to directly acknowledge a thing's existence, which conveniently spells out date. When you put them on, everything in your home springs to life as a fully realised character. Your Hoover, your houseplants, your duvet, even the abstract concept of existential dread, all of it is now sentient, talkative, and possibly flirtatious. That's the setup. You can chat with these objects, argue with them, fall in love with them, or drive them away. You don't just date them, you choose what kind of relationship you want to have, and this isn't just a throwaway mechanic. The game takes those choices seriously, offering branching storylines, distinct endings, and a frankly concerning number of options, including but not limited to a mop, a bedspread, and your own personified self-loathing. There's truly nothing else quite like this breakout hit. A game so strange, so off the wall, it feels like it's clawed its way out of a fever dream and straight onto your screen. It's bold, unpredictable, and completely unlike anything else in the current gaming landscape. And the best part? You can get it for 28% less than the usual price just by using my affiliate link. In fact, using my link, you can get huge money off Wu Chang, Stellar Blade, Expedition 33, and thousands of other must-play games. Date Everything is absurdly ambitious. It boasts over 1.2 million words of dialogue, more than 70,000 individual voice lines, and a staggering 11,000 hand-drawn art assets to bring each character to life. This means that even the most ludicrous objects have backstories, emotional arcs, and multiple progression routes, which is, quite frankly, more effort than some real-life partners are putting in. But what's even more impressive is where the game came from. It wasn't a corporate-funded passion project greenlit by a major publisher. It started in a garage. A genuine labour of love from three friends: Ray Chase, Robbie Damon, and Max Mittelman. All of them are well-known voice actors in the gaming and anime industries. If you've played a Japanese RPG in the past decade, you would have heard their dulcet tones. Tired of just voicing other people's stories, they decided to make their own. And over the course of 7 years, what began as a niche joke between recording sessions snowballed into something much bigger. Eventually, Team 17, the publisher best known for Worms and Overcooked, signed on, and by launch, the team had grown to over 50 people, all working on what might be the strangest, most elaborate and unexpectedly moving dating sim ever made. But the casting doesn't stop with the trio at the helm. The supporting lineup reads like a voice acting hall of fame. Troy Baker, Laura Bailey, Felicia Day, Neil Newbern, Ben Starr, Matthew Mercer. Basically, if you've cried during a cutscene in the last 5 years, they're probably in here. You've got the stars of The Last of Us, Final Fantasy XVI, Baldur's Gate 3, Horizon, BioShock Infinite, and Critical Role all lending their talents to a game where you might end up eloping with a spatula. And bizarrely, the quality of the performances, some of the best I've heard in years. No irony and no caveats, despite how ridiculous the premise for the game actually is. What might shock you is that when playing Date Everything, is that this isn't some novelty gag with pastel aesthetics and Twitter bait. Date Everything is the real deal, a game with vision, production value, and a level of commitment that borders on the unhinged. Which of course makes the rest of this story even more interesting. Now, as ridiculous as all of this sounds, Date Everything isn't purely fantasy. As tempting as it is to believe that this is just a fever dream of some deeply unserious men with too much time and access to a drawing tablet, the truth is, people really do fall in love with objects in real life, and they have for ages. In 2007, an American woman named Erica Eiffel famously held a commitment ceremony to the Eiffel Tower. This wasn't satire. She even founded an organisation called OS International, designed to support people who experience romantic attraction to inanimate objects. Then there's a Swedish woman who married the Berlin Wall, legally changed her surname to Berliner Mauer, and described the wall as her lifelong soulmate. As well as a man in the United States who claims to be in a sexual relationship with balloons. Yeah, balloons. These freaks are everywhere and they walk among us. There is even a clinical term for it, objectum sexuality, a recognised phenomenon where individuals form emotional, romantic and sometimes sexual connections with objects. It's rare, but it's real. And researchers have observed correlations with autism spectrum conditions, particularly among people who experience heightened emotional attachment to physical things. Others point to synesthesia or cross-sensory associations, where objects trigger feelings of safety, intimacy, or even arousal. It's complex, but in many cases it's also deeply sincere on a frightening level. But what's remarkable is that Date Everything, for all its unhinged premise, never treats this subject as a joke. It doesn't mock, ridicule, or reduce these people to punchlines. It doesn't lean into mockumentary territory or turn its cast of anthropomorphized furniture into comic relief. Quite the opposite, actually. It treats every character, no matter how ridiculous, with genuine emotional care. There's absurdity, of course, but the emotional core is real. And that's a big part of what makes this work. The game walks a delicate line between silliness and sincerity, allowing it to be funny without being cruel. You might be romancing a Hoover, but the Hoover has depth, perspective, and feelings. You're not just clicking through a joke, you're engaging with a story that bizarrely takes emotional truth seriously, which is more than can be said for plenty of modern dating sims featuring actual humans. Absurdity, when it's done right, doesn't dilute emotional connection, it enhances it. Date Everything proves that even the strangest setups can tap into something universal. The longing to be seen, understood, and maybe, just maybe, loved. Even if it's by a lamp, apparently.
I love lamp. Do you really love the lamp, or are you just saying it because you saw it?
At this point, you might be wondering something I definitely couldn't stop thinking about. Where's the outrage? Where are the headlines? Where's the YouTuber with 300,000 subscribers furiously squinting at a thumbnail next to a sentient futon, shouting about how this is what happens when you let the left run wild. Because, let's be honest, Date Everything should be prime culture war bait. It's proudly deviant, asks for your pronouns within 60 seconds, features a fully non-binary cast of kettles and cutlery, and was made in California by 3 very theatrical sounding men with anime voice acting credits. It is, in every way, an open invitation for the usual suspects to call it woke trash and declare it the death of Western civilization. And yet, silence. No backlash. No meltdowns, no rage bait thumbnails with glowing eyes and capital letters. Nothing. And that silence, it's oddly revealing. Why didn't this game become the next battleground in the online culture war? Well, for starters, nobody knows how to be mad at it. Let's be honest, it's too ridiculous to feel threatening. There's no beloved franchise to accuse it of hijacking, no long-running IP that has been ruined for the sake of representation, there's no female James Bond, no race-swapped Hogwarts professor, no iconic soldier replaced by a sarcastic TikTok-ready NPC in a beanie. Date Everything was always absurd, so there was nothing to take back, only something to discover. And most importantly, it doesn't preach. There's no smug monologues about oppression. No scenes built entirely around scolding you for not agreeing with the writer's worldview. No dialogue trees designed to funnel you into a single socially approved outcome. It's just gentle, weird, kind of mad, but also warm. The politics are there. You've been fired by an AI. You're asked to provide your pronouns from the outset, and yes, the game literally ends if you go outside, but none of that is presented with moral superiority. You're not told how to feel, you're just invited to explore. So that there is the key difference with the messaging in this one and, say, Dragon Age the Veilguard. Authenticity. The game doesn't feel like it was designed in a corporate boardroom. It doesn't wear its ideology like a press release. It's weird, anti-capitalist and completely off the rails. But all of that flows naturally from the world it builds, not some forced message. And when something feels real, even the people who normally get upset about this stuff tend to back off. There's no megacorp to boycott, no beloved childhood memory being overwritten. Just a bunch of oddballs making something bizarre and heartfelt and somehow nailing it. So spectacularly, nobody as of yet seems to have a problem with it. Date Everything has seemingly sidestepped becoming just another flashpoint in the outrage economy, a fate not so fortunate for many other games. Take Dustborn, for example, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Concord, Sony's $400 million disaster, that one, and so many more. What all of these games have in common is a kind of corporate timidity disguised as progress. They weren't inclusive because they had something to say. They were inclusive because they thought they had to be. They didn't trust the audience to connect, so they engineered the connection. And when players didn't respond, they looked genuinely baffled. Date Everything doesn't do that. It doesn't posture and doesn't try to impress. It just is what it is, a weird, joyfully absurd piece of interactive fiction made by a team who clearly loved every minute of making it, and that sincerity comes through in every scene. I think this game is layered like an onion. While Date Everything might look like a quirky novelty on the surface, there's a surprisingly sharp political edge running just underneath. And it's all the more powerful because the game never shouts about it the same way many embarrassing AAA projects attempt to do. You begin the story as someone who's just been replaced by AI, a customer service worker turfed out of their job by a bot. It's not milked for melodrama, but the message is clear. The system has moved on and you haven't. You're broke, isolated and completely untethered from the world. Your only companions are the voices of your home appliances brought to life by a pair of magical glasses. If that's not a metaphor for modern alienation, I'm not sure what is. The game gently explores what it means to get left behind, to live in a hyper-connected world where nobody talks, where algorithms and group chats have replaced the social fabric, and where your coping mechanism is pretending your duvet cares about your mental health. It never turns sour or cynical, but it absolutely understands what it's depicting. This is what happens when systems discard the people they once relied on. And while it's absurd, it's also uncomfortably familiar. There is a strong anti-capitalist thread running through the experience, but it's not the clumsy hashtag-laden kind you find in AAA games trying to appear relevant. It's quiet, observational, and built into the premise, not bolted on after the focus tests. Date Everything doesn't try to preach, it just shows you what loneliness looks like in an economy that only values productivity and what connection looks like in the absence of human contact. And that's where the sincerity hits, because unlike Ubisoft, which will tell you to fight the system while selling you a Rainbow Six Battle Pass in the same sentence, Date Everything doesn't feel like it was made by marketing, it was made by people. Creatives who have spent years in the industry and know exactly how strange and precarious it can be. When EA proudly announces that The Sims is now a safe, inclusive space right before laying off half the team that made it inclusive in the first place, it feels like a parody. When Ubisoft releases a punk-themed DLC for a game about resisting authoritarianism and then locks the best outfits behind a premium currency, it's not satire, it's just cynical. Date Everything avoids that trap because it isn't pretending. It's legitimate. In interviews, the developers said they wanted to make comedy with heart, and that's exactly what they did. It's weird, warm, pointed, without ever seeming like a sermon, and crucially, it actually feels like it came from somewhere real. It's an oddly moving little game that looks at the modern world, shrugs, and says, "Fine, if this is how things are now, I'm dating the kettle." And honestly, who can blame them? For all its absurdity, the real reason Date Everything works isn't just because it's weird, it's because it's well written. The humour isn't random or referential, it's character driven. The game doesn't lean in on the fact that you're dating a door hinge for easy laughs. It builds jokes through personality, pacing, and an absurd internal logic that somehow feels emotionally coherent. And the relationships, you can play it straight, gay, ace, aromantic, or just make friends with a particularly anxious floorboard. Some characters are warm, others are prickly, some are absolute lunatics, and the game never nudges you towards one over the other. It is essentially as gay or as straight as you want it to be. No more, no less. Date Everything isn't masquerading as therapy. It's not trying to teach you a lesson or sell you a worldview. It's just a very strange, very human piece of art made by people who know how to balance comedy with care. It gives the player genuine agency. It builds emotional resonance without trying to impress anyone. And most refreshingly of all, it never talks down to you. That might be why it works so well, because for all the jokes, for all the surrealism, and all of the sentient cutlery, the game still treats your choices with respect. You can be messy, romantic, detached, emotionally stunted. It doesn't matter. The game adjusts not to correct you, but to meet you where you are, and somehow in all that context, dating your Hoover feels like a surprisingly reasonable decision. So yeah, we're doomed, but not for the reasons I assumed when I first saw this game. Not because someone out there is serenading a George Foreman grill, or because a non-binary wardrobe somehow has better dialogue than half the AAA protagonists this year. No, we're doomed because this might actually be one of the most honest, heartfelt, and strangely healthy reflections of where we are right now. In an industry suffocating under seasonal roadmaps, battle passes, and characters engineered to maximise engagement time, Date Everything, a ridiculous little game about dating your bloody laundry basket, somehow feels more human than most. It's weird, it's raw, it's clearly not built to go viral on TikTok or prop up a quarterly investor call, and that's precisely what makes it so rare. This game exists because the people who made it cared, not because of optics. They cared about the experience, about making something joyful, strange, sincere. There's no franchise to push, no algorithm to satisfy, no committee to please. Just a group of creatives trying to make you laugh, maybe feel something, and if you're open to it, maybe even feel a little less alone. And somehow in all of its unhinged, objectum sexual, toaster snogging glory, it succeeds. If you walk away from this video feeling confused, amused, or ever so slightly changed, that's probably a good sign, because the real question Date Everything leaves us with isn't, why does this exist? It's, why does this work? And what does that say about the state of the games industry and maybe the state of us that it does? I don't have the answer, but at least I now have a Hoover that loves me. And the best part is you don't have to pay full price to experience it. Use my affiliate link and get it for 28% off. Plus, you'll find massive discounts on Wu Chang, Stellar Blade and Expedition 33 and thousands of other must-play games that make the likes of Ubisoft management look foolish. Or if you want to support what I do in a more personal and intimate way, access my behind-the-scenes cosplay library and more over on Patreon.